The full-time whistle's gone, and we now have our final four. The CAF Champions League has reached its penultimate stage after a thrilling second leg quarterfinals, in which many a giant fell and many a giant still dream of continental success. It's been a pretty wild week in Africa's Premier Club competition, and we're here to talk about it. Hi, I'm Footballotaku and welcome to my latest video, and in this video I will be talking about the CAF Champions League quarterfinal, second leg. I'm thinking a little bit too far ahead. Anyway, if you guys are loving the content, don't forget to like, to share and subscribe and all the other amazing stuff. And enough of my introduction, let's get on to the action, which started off in... The action began in the 30th of June Air Defense Stadium in Cairo, home of defending champions Pyramids, as they took home an away goal and took on FAR Rabat, the tie being level at 1-1, but the Egyptians having the edge with the away goal. And it would be a surprising start, as it would be the visitors who would score the first goal. A well-worked move on the right flank, a very fast break, and a ball played in for Reda Slim, who was in a very awkward angle, a very tight angle, was still able to get one past Al Shanawi and enter the back of the net for 1-0. And that was a crucial goal in the context of the tie. Not only did it give FAR Rabat the lead, but it also gave them the crucial away goal. And that away goal meant that all of Pyramid's hard work in Rabat meant nothing now, as the visitors took a very shock 1-goal lead. Pyramids though would attack very well. They have two set piece opportunities which were pretty well fielded by FAR Rabat. I mean, one chance sort of eventually goes wide, being unable for it to be taken advantage of. Another opportunity as well really tested FAR Rabat's defense, but it was a test that the defense just passed, as it really led to nothing at the end. But it really meant that Pyramids had reacted pretty well to going 1-0 down. They had another header with the ball going into the box where the goalkeeper saves, Tagnauti saves, literally on the line. Like, he's literally on the line hugging the far post and eventually keeping it out. To keep it out and to make sure that FAR Rabat would still be ahead. Pyramids would also have a penalty shout for a handball in the box, a shout that would go to VAR, but VAR would rule that it wasn't with the penalty. It wasn't a penalty, and to be honest, they were kind of right. I mean, the ball comes really fast at the FAR defender. It comes really fast at him. He doesn't have a lot of time to adjust himself, and the arm is in a somewhat natural position. It looks like it's retreating to a natural position. It's not like he's intentionally sticking it out. It's not like he's intentionally sort of sticking it out. The arm looks like it's starting to return to a natural position. So maybe then the referee or the VAR saw that there was no penalty here, and FAR Rabat got away with one. So heading into the half, the team from Morocco, who actually had a fair bit of traveling support this time. As you know, last year when this tie was being played, they had no fans in the stadium. Their traveling fans were pretty buoyant, and they'll be made even more buoyant in the second half, where in the 54th minute they would have a corner. The corner would be floated in, and an amazing header for 2-0, and a crucial goal. I mean, it's a header that goes down, he heads it onto the ground. El Shanawi is unable to block, and it floats into the back of the net for 2-0, and it's a huge goal, a massive goal in the context of the tie. It meant now that we could no longer have, the extraordinary tiebreakers such as or penalties, but 2-0 up with 2 away goals. It meant that Pyramids now needed 3 to hold on to the Champions League crown. This was a massive goal, and the defending champions, who had been such a great attacking side, now really needed goals and needed them quick. They would get one though a couple minutes later, 8 minutes later, a ball floated into the area, and that man again, Fiston Mayele, would knock the ball into the back of the net, 4-1 to give Pyramids a monicum of hope. I mean, it's a big goal for Mayele as well. He's been pretty inactive in the CAF Champions League. He hasn't really found that killer sort of instinct that he had last year that won him the CAF Club Competition Player of the Year, but he hasn't really been, found out about it, so he hasn't really needed to be criticized for it because he has a great supporting cast around him anyway. But he was able to find the goal here to make it 2-1, still to FAR Rabat, but Pyramids now 1 down, 2 to go. There was a bit of argy-bargy in there where a Pyramids player was slapped in the penalty area. I mean, I felt that should have been a red card, but I mean, maybe it wasn't enough, or maybe it was a little bit too much play acting, but still a very, very unsavory moment. Pyramids would dig for the 2 goals, and they would manufacture a lot more attacks. Oita had a huge chance, a ball floated across the box where he meets, but he's unable to keep the shot down. FAR Rabat as well had an opportunity to really put the tie to bed, but were unable to take it. And they did an amazing job at keeping, Pyramids quiet, this Pyramids attack quiet. And eventually the full-time whistle would go and the crown would fall. FAR Rabat would qualify for the CAF Champions League semi-final for the first time since 1971, when they last won the competition. And the attractive and, should we say, goal-hungry Pyramids sadly didn't find the goals. They were out. It was a huge upset and really throws the cat amongst the pigeons in the CAF Champions League. It's a huge result, monumental result for Alex Santos and his team from Morocco to knock out the defending champions, the favourites of this tie, and would really be a huge result, not just for the FAR Rabat fans that made the trip to Egypt, but the FAR Rabat fans at home. And they would have to wait for the end of the weekend to see who they would meet in that last 4 tie. Historic. Absolutely historic. They have reached the final frontier. So in the second quarterfinal of the weekend, we saw the resumption of the big rivalry, the big derby in the CAF Champions League, as Esperance traveled to Cairo to face Al Ahly, defending a 1-0 lead. Now, the match would be played behind closed doors thanks to a CAF verdict on Al Ahly's poor behavior of the supporters against FAR Rabat on match day 6, which meant that Al Ahly would play this game behind closed doors with no fans, and that would be a huge sort of factor, or would play a huge factor in the context of the tie. I mean, Al Ahly needing a big comeback, a definite improvement on their performance and discipline, but without their fans it would make the job that much tougher. Though no 12th man, no problem, as it seemed in the 10th minute, as Al Ahly would find the first goal of the game. They would have the first chance as well. Before I talk about that, they'd have the first chance as well, a header going off the Esperance goal, and Al Ahly really applying that early pressure that a lot of us predicted. 2 minutes later, though, they would find their joy. A ball played in from the right. Alou Dieng would cross in. It's a little bit scruffy, but their man again, the captain, Mahmoud Trezeguet, at the second time of asking, would lash the ball into the back of the net and would give Al Ahly the crucial equalizer they needed. I mean, for Esperance, it was always going to be a game of longevity. It was always going to be a game of how long could they hang on, how long would they be able to hang on. But I think they always knew that they needed a moment of their own. Unfortunately, this threw a real spanner in the works. Al Ahly would also keep that momentum as well. They have some glorious opportunities, some of them also based on Esperance pressure. You could tell that despite playing with no crowd, Esperance looked really, really nervous at the back. They at times don't know what they're doing at the back, and at times really got away with some lucky calls. That first half really was all Al Ahly, and Esperance really didn't create much. We're always constantly on the back foot. Al Ahly would manufacture another opportunity as well, with a shot just outside the area, but unfortunately would go wide, and Esperance would really just be cramped inside their own area. So then the halftime whistle goes. It's 1-0, and it's been all Al Ahly. It's been all Al Ahly, and really you feel for the team from Cairo that they really was reacting well. They really were in the groove and in the mood, and really you felt they were going to have the opportunity to turn the tie around. So the second half comes around, and the atmosphere, well, not necessarily atmosphere of the crowd, of course, there was no crowd, but the game would still carry on in that vein. Al Ahly would still create opportunities, knowing that they needed a second goal to take the lead in this tie. And would also create a lot of opportunities. I mean, a fantastic acrobatic chance would fly over the bar. Ben Said, the Esperance goalkeeper, would make a few saves, but Esperance would be rewarded for their patience, and it came from an Al Ahly mistake, a misplaced pass where Esperance knocked the ball around really, really well. The ball then eventually falls to Ibrahim Kante, and he would slot the ball right past the goalkeeper Mustafa Shabir. And Esperance, a team who had really been waving that pressure, a team that had really been sort of weathering the storm, eventually were given a priceless reward, an away goal that would level the match on the night, but would give them a massive advantage in the context of the tie, and a massive advantage on away goals. Knowing that they had the away goal, it meant that Al Ahly now had to score twice. They had to score 2 more goals to progress. Now, it was the moment Esperance needed. The moment Esperance sort of felt that it was gonna come eventually, but they needed to be patient. They needed to be good enough to be able to slot that chance away. The chance came, and they slotted away for 1-1 on the night, 2-1 on aggregate, Al Ahly needing 2 to progress. And the next goal in the tie would be absolutely crucial. If Al Ahly score it, we're still level and we still have a chance. But if Esperance score it, it's game over. And sadly, that's what would happen. Esperance would score, and it was indeed game over. A well-worked move heading into the area would have Jan Sass in on goal, a tackle in the penalty area, and a penalty for Esperance, just like last week. And for Al Ahly, they started to unravel. Not only did they start to unravel in terms of the pressure, but they started to unravel in terms of the discipline again, giving away bad calls, giving away penalties, and really was struggling with that discipline. And just as he did last week, Mohamed Tougai, the Algerian centre-back, steps up and slots it past Shabir for 2-1. 2-1 on the night, 3-1 on aggregate, and surely now it was going to be a bridge too far for Al Ahly. They would get one back due to an unfortunate own goal from a corner lobbed into the area. The Esperance defender sadly would make contact with the ball and would divert into the area, into the goal for 2-2, which would give Al Ahly a monicum of hope. They'd still need 2 more to progress. But in stoppage time, it would be Esperance who would put the final nail, the final say of the tie, the exclamation point, with a corner of their own, lobbed into the area, a header. It goes beyond Mustafa Shabir, and it's 3-2, and that would be that. It would be the end of a monumental victory for Esperance. I mean, it's a landmark victory, like I mentioned, their first ever victory away at Al Ahly. It'll be the first time since 2018 they defeat Al Ahly in a home and away knockout tie, and they would qualify for their 17th CAF Champions League semi-final. For Al Ahly, it's an uncharacteristically early end of the competition, and heads have already started to roll, if not roll already. It's been a truly disappointing season for Al Ahly so far, and an early type of CAF Champions League exit is truly disappointing for the team from Cairo. For Esperance, on the other hand, it's yet another Champions League semi-final. It's a monumental win. They become the first team since Orlando Pirates in 2015 to do the double over Al Ahly in a CAF knockout tie, and they too would be in the semi-finals, waiting to see who they would meet in the last four. Sometimes you need one chance. It only takes a moment. So the meeting, the second leg, would take us to Kigali, Rwanda, as Al Hilal carrying home an away goal against RS Berkane into this CAF Champions League quarterfinal. And after the way the first leg ended, I personally felt that Al Hilal definitely would be able to see this one through. They were definitely very enterprising and definitely had the edge over the club from Morocco. But it would be them who would start very well at having an early opportunity in a stadium that actually was filling up pretty nicely. I mean, it wasn't all the way sold out, but it was still pretty nicely filled heading into this match. RS Berkane would have an opportunity of their own as well. Of course, they need an away goal, but their opportunity was pretty good, but it would be dealt away with the defense. It was a very, very tense first half from both sides, very, very close. Both teams creating some pretty good opportunities, but wouldn't really find the back of the net. But the drama would truly begin in the second half. Al Hilal would get an opportunity just in the middle of the first half, or the second half, the first part of the second half, but couldn't take their chances. But eventually the powder keg, the atmosphere, and eventually the deadline would be broken when Al Hilal broke forward from an RSB attack, a well-worked move breaking up into the pitch, and they would eventually get the goal. A rasping effort from Adama Koulibaly to give Al Hilal a 1-0 lead. A fantastic strike from distance, which would send the Kigali the national stadium in Rwanda absolutely crazy. Until it wasn't. The referee got a call from VAR to check an infringement in the earlier play, which could have been a possible penalty for RS Berkane. And when you look at it, it really was a penalty. It was a ball floated into the box. A Al Hilal player and a attacker Bassan would collide, and it's a collision that kind of makes you wince a little. I mean, if you look at it a certain way, a certain angle, it winces a little, but you really did have no opportunity. There really was no other option but to give the penalty for RS Berkane. So the goal, of course, was chalked off, and now RS Berkane, who were 1-0 down, now had the chance to go 1-0 up. Shahir, who scored the penalty last week, had a chance to repeat the act again this week. But this time the goalkeeper did his homework. He dove to his left and kept it out and would keep Al Hilal ahead. And you could say the roar from the stadium. I mean, they were already going crazy once due to the disallowed goal, but now they were really going crazy, and you really felt for Al Hilal. This was their moment. A huge penalty save to the goalkeeper's right, a massive penalty save. Now would really give them the opportunity to go forward. Now, Al Hilal will create a lot more opportunities. Of course, Jean-Claude Gamagisha would be pivotal to that creating of chances, and they really had good chances to kill the game off. I mean, they really played through the RSB defense. They really held them back, but unfortunately just didn't have the killer instinct to put chances away. And even though they had this very slender advantage, they really needed to put those chances away. And as football's version of Murphy's Law, if you don't take your chances, you are going to get punished. And that's exactly what happened, because in stoppage time, second minute of 7 minutes of stoppage time, RS Berkane have an indirect free kick. It's a well-worked free kick. It's a well-worked free kick move, and Shahir, who had missed the penalty, finds himself one-on-one in on the goalkeeper, and he does not make any mistake. Slots it past the goalkeeper for a last-minute lead for RS Berkane. It was the moment they waited so badly for. It was a moment they felt that it was never going to come, but it was a massive goal, a huge goal, a tie-winning goal, and the air out of the stadium just got sucked out. I mean, the silence was absolutely deafening in the national stadium in Kigali. Al Hilal looked absolutely devastated. I mean, all those chances, they had all those opportunities to put the game away, and sadly couldn't do it, and then got absolutely sucker punched and robbed at the end. So the full-time whistle goes off, and RS Berkane break new ground in their debut season in the CAF Champions League. They qualify for the semi-finals. They weren't the best team in this match at all. They weren't all the fun to watch in this tie at all, but they took the moment when it mattered. They took the chance when it counted, and now see themselves for the very first time in the CAF Champions League semi-finals. Mwami Shabani yet again grows his stock in African football. I mean, a two-time Champions League winner with Esperance, of course, a Confederations Cup winner with RS Berkane, and now has led the Orange Boys into their first ever Champions League semi-final. It's a fantastic result for the team from Berkane, and now they know who they're going to meet, but now only one place in the final four was left, and that would be decided in the sweltering heat of Bamako. Dr. Jekyll or Mr. Hyde? That's what we saw in these 2 weeks. Mamelodi Sundowns visited Bamako this week, the Malian capital, defending a 3-0 lead from the first leg against Stade Malien, a stadium and a ground where a lot of the major teams have suffered in this CAF Champions League. Stade Malien have garnered a massive reputation of being a bit of the upstarts and uproots in the CAF Champions League, and that reputation comes from having a strong home record. And they would be off to a phenomenal start. I mean, the thing with comebacks, like really big comebacks, like remontada level comebacks, is you have to score first and score very early. Inside the first 10-15 minutes, you have to get the first goal, because it really, the atmosphere already is really at a fever pitch, and when you score that first goal, it's a powder keg, and it's gonna make the crowd believe, and that's exactly what the case was. Okay, the stadium wasn't a sellout, quite unfortunate. I mean, I felt it should have been. This is a massive game. This is the first time in the modern era a Malian team was in the CAF Champions League, but the atmosphere was pretty cooking, was pretty much seething, and then it burst into life with literally the first play of the game. Literally from the kickoff, Stade Malien worked their way past Sundowns, a ball across, and Thaddeus King, my man to watch for this tie for Le Stadien, would be at the back post to slot past Ronwen Williams to make it 1-0 inside 35 seconds. Probably the fastest goal, probably will be the fastest goal of the CAF Champions League this season, and it sent the home crowd into raptures. Already some of the home quarters didn't really believe they could pull off this comeback, but there were probably 1,000 or so who rocked up to the game on their way to see something special, and boy did they see something special. 1-0 up inside the first minute, and already that, as if Stade Malien didn't need much of a lift up, they got a further lift up, and that really was the pattern of the first half. It was all Le Stadien in the first half. They would create multiple opportunities. They're getting a lot of joy down the right flank, creating multiple opportunities Sundowns couldn't handle, and eventually they get the ball into the back of the net again, and again it beat Thaddeus King, but the Cameroon striker would be denied, rightfully so, thanks to offside. Thanks to his goal being ruled out for offside. But that would be a warning for Sundowns that if they weren't careful, this team could wipe out that 3-0 deficit real quick and turn what felt like a routine CAF Champions League visit into something really, really difficult now. And what makes it real interesting is that now Sundowns, like I said, what we saw in the home leg was Dr. Jekyll. I mean, a team that, they had tactical discipline, a team that had tactics, a team that could play very fluidly. Now we're seeing Mr. Hyde, a team that really was starting to struggle, a team that didn't look very good, and now they were really teetering on the ropes, and things wouldn't get any better when they would when Stade Malien would put the ball in the back of the net for a third time. Another well-worked move. This time Nkeng would be the provider. His shot would hit the post. The rebound though would fall to another Stade Malien player, and he would slot it past for 2-0. And now the comeback was really on. Now, I mean, the stadium was absolutely going crazy. 2-0 up, and now they knew they needed one more goal to put the tie level. And for Sundowns, they looked very, very vulnerable. This was probably the worst performance I'd seen from Mamelodi Sundowns in the CAF Champions League, probably this season. While for Stade Malien, they were absolutely incredible. I mean, that first goal really got them started. Really got them started, and now they really just didn't look back. They got started and just didn't look back and kept attacking Sundowns again and again and again, and were very, very enterprising. While Sundowns, on the other hand, there was a huge disconnect. I mean, up front you had Nuno Santos, who looked very disconnected from the rest of the side, didn't really get a lot of joy. I mean, I think Sundowns only had like 5 touches in the Stade Malien half of the pitch in that first half. So first half comes to a close. It's 2-0 in the night, 3-2 on aggregate, and the heat is sweltering. I mean, this is something I haven't mentioned yet, but it was 38 degrees per time of kickoff. I mean, these are inhumane. This is inhumane. I mean, to play games of football in this sort of temperature. I mean, if it's going to be like this, then Lord knows what the World Cup is going to be like. I mean, we all remember, for those who did watch the Club World Cup, those were some brutal temperatures, and playing a CAF Champions League game in this temperature was probably absolutely brutal. And I think maybe that's what could have caught Sundowns in trouble. But still, there was no excuse for them to be outplayed the way they were outplayed. Heading into the second half, though, Sundowns did start the half eventually stronger. They made some substitutions. Brian Leon came on, and Sundowns actually looked a little bit stronger in the second half. They started the second half pretty well, started knocking the ball around in Stade Malien's part of the pitch. They started playing pretty well, and although had two really good chances that just don't go their way, thanks to sadly shooting wide, but it meant that Sundowns had shown signs of life. At Sundowns, remember, an away goal eventually put Stade Malien right back where they started, which was needing 3 goals. So Sundowns really were looking for that away goal. You could definitely see they started to look for that away goal. But unfortunately, though, Sundowns' momentum would be absolutely stifled in the 78th minute when Aubrey Mudiba would pick up a red card for a cynical challenge. Terrible challenge from him on a Stade Malien player. I mean, it's absolutely horrible. It studs up. He catches the player, studs up in his shins. There is no intent per se. He's not trying to injure the player at all. But as a tackle, he just gets all the way wrong, and it leaves the referee with no choice. And a difficult day just gets all the more difficult now, having to defend a very slender league with 10 men. Already the conditions are against you, and the momentum everything has been against you now. And for Sundowns, a team, this was really the choice. They either crumbled, somehow throw away this 3-0 lead and get eliminated in the Champions League, being victims of one of the tournament's great upsets, or 2, they bunker down, they handle everything Le Stadien throw at them, and they progress. And that's exactly what happened. Le Stadien threw everything at this one for the last 10 minutes. They had a great opportunity with a long-range shot that goes wide. They had a corner. I think the last play of the game was a corner. I'm surprised the goalie doesn't come up for this. But Ronwin Williams claimed And he made save after save and eventually claimed, and eventually the referee would call time on what was an extraordinary afternoon in Bamako as Mamelodi Sundowns would progress. Although 2-0 losers on the day, they were 3-2 winners on aggregate and will play a CAF Champions League semi-final, a fourth in a row, surviving an absolute nightmarish 90 minutes. I mean, after a performance like that, I would be happy to progress, but I would storm off the pitch as quickly as possible. I mean, they will be happy to be going through. For Stade Malien, it's the end of what's been a fantastic campaign. I mean, it's a campaign that has kept Mali dreaming, and it's not only kept Mali dreaming per se, but has kept, it's given hope to teams like them, teams who aren't always in the CAF Champions League picture. It will motivate teams like them to progress further and to hopefully make these things possible. I mean, and also they were unbeaten at home. I mean, 3 wins and a draw, welcoming Esperance, welcoming Simba, and beating them here, and now Mamelodi Sundowns. It's a very noble end to what has been a noble campaign for Les Stadiens, and they've been wonderful, they've been competitive, and they are very, very ambitious, and we hope to see them soon in the CAF Champions League. We hope they don't become strangers, and we hope to see them soon at this part of African football's premier club competition. And now there were 4. The CAF Champions League semi-finals are confirmed, and here they are. First, we will have an all-Moroccan Champions League semi-finalist between 2 of the more unfancied sides in the competition. RS Berkane in their first semi-final will take on FAR Rabat, who are in their first semi-final since winning the competition in 1971. While the other semi-final, it's the tie of the round. It's another massive heavyweight clash between 2 giants of the African game, and a rematch of knockout games past, and a rematch of the 2024 semi-final and 2025 quarterfinal. We have Espérance de Tunis versus Mamelodi Sundowns. The games will be played first legs on the weekend of the 10th of April, while the second legs will be a week later, the 17th, the weekend of the 17th. And that's it. That's the end of the video. What are your thoughts about the CAF Champions League quarterfinals? Did your team progress? Did they qualify? Are they out? What is the way forward now for your team, sadly, now that they're eliminated? And for those who are in the semi-finals, are you looking forward to these semi-final ties? What was your moment of the weekend? Also, don't forget to like, to share, subscribe, and all the other magical, wonderful stuff. It really does help, and I really do appreciate your views. But until then, it's been your boy, the Football Otaku, and never forget, real football always wins. Check you on the flip side. Deuces. Bye-bye.